mention, I mean, we've seen some dodgy decisions in previous years. You know, I mean, there's some people thought Gastelum and Izzy was dodgy. I mean, I don't. That brings significant strikes into it actually.
Yeah.
Because if you look at the two fighters afterwards, Izzy's face was like a balloon. But he landed more significant strikes. So like, who did the more damage and who had the better chance of winning the fight?
Yeah, I mean, well, in that case, I do think Izzy should have won. I mean, Gastelum, big fan, but I don't know, just technically. Like, if you analyze the fight afterwards, I do think Izzy deserved to win, but I hear what you're saying. I do hear what you're saying.
Because, I mean, the thing is, like, okay, he did actually hurt Gastelum, so just maybe Gastelum's face doesn't bruise up and all of that. So, but yeah, I mean, some of the other more dodgy decisions, I think it would be a good idea to have a look at like my top 3 kind of one is
Absolutely.
so we can see how people you know could look at trying to change weird judging decisions, because I mean it just leaves a sour taste in everybody's mouth when there's a weird decision like this, you know.
I'm game, let's do it.
Okay, so the first one, I don't know if you remember John Jones and Alexander Gustafsson, their first fight.
Yeah, and also Reyes. That's another one.
Okay, Reyes. Yeah. So John Jones has 2 kind of, well, don't want to throw him under the bus, but OSP also was a little bit like touch and go. So anyway,
yeah.
Versus Alexander Gustafsson.
I agree. That was like the first fight in particular. Yeah. I mean, second fight, I do think he won. I think he got enough done. But yeah, first fight, I remember watching it the first time. And yeah, I do think like Alexander won. Yeah.
I think didn't he knock him out in the second fight? Gustafsson got knocked out in the second fight. Yeah. And then Dominic Reyes as well. There was another one that was a little bit Dominic Reyes was, I mean, it's these tall, lengthy guys that actually could stand and hang with John Jones.
Yeah.
Those were some dodgy decisions, but you know, I think in those instances, you know, you've got to beat the champion like decisively to actually win the title, which I also think is a really stupid rule. I think it should just be on the balance of,
like, do you beat this person?
You beat them on the night. That's it.
Yeah.
There's also GSP versus Johnny Hendricks. I think was one of the biggest, like,
huge upset. And that makes a lot of sense. How do you? I mean, it was just nice for GSP to come back then afterwards. It does like build a story, I suppose, which is like a silver lining.
I mean, look, Hendricks pieced him up properly in that fight. I mean, his face was busted and GSP did a good job, but Hendricks was the clear winner in that fight. Yeah. I mean, there was no contest.
Yeah.
Then another sort of, now these are real, like, in my opinion, these are real robberies. Like, this is why I say, Izzy saying it's the biggest robbery. Like, it doesn't even come close to these 3. But the biggest for me was Machida versus Shogun, their first fight.
Okay.
I mean, so at that time, Machida was like untouchable because no one could figure out his style yet. He had this weird, awkward karate style that, you know, was catching a lot of people, especially when they were coming in.
Yeah.
And Shogun just had that proper, like, Muay Thai, keep your hands up high and just start chopping away at the legs. And it was like blatantly, like, Shogun won that fight.
Yeah.
And I even think it was a unanimous decision for Lyoto Machida, if I remember correctly.
I can't remember. But yeah. So, I mean, like, yeah.
That's a big robbery. So I think if you look at the top, I think those are like 3 or 4 of the top, like, proper, actual, real robberies. Like, when we're talking judges' decisions, like I think Adesanya is emotional about his teammate.
Yeah.
And he made a good point about interviewing the judges and everything. But I think if you compare it to those 3, and those are 3 of like 20 that you can name that are like proper robberies.